Welcome to our channel. Here we make literature clear, engaging, and accessible. We break down books briefly and clearly, helping high school students better understand plots, ideas, and the meaning behind each work. Our goal is to make learning easier and more effective, so every book opens up to you without stress. If you're preparing for class or want to quickly review the material, you're in the right place. If you find our lessons helpful, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share the videos. It helps the channel grow and lets us create even more useful content for you.
Hello friends! Today we're going to dive into Arthur Miller's powerful, intense drama, The Crucible. This is a story about fear, mass hysteria, and the destructive force of accusations set during the Salem witch trials. We'll break down the plot, get to know the key characters, and explore the main themes of the play, from fanaticism to the fight for truth, to give you a deep and clear understanding of this classic work. Introduction: the author and the double context. Who was Arthur Miller? Arthur Miller was one of the greatest American playwrights of the 20th century, the author of works such as Death of a Salesman and All My Sons. The Crucible was written in 1953 and became his response to what was happening in America at the time. Historical context: two eras in one play. Understanding the play requires knowledge of two historical periods. Salem, 1692. The action takes place in the Puritan settlement of Salem, Massachusetts. This was a society built on strict religious rules, where any deviation from the norm was considered a sin or the work of the devil. America in the 1950s. The play was written during the era of McCarthyism, a period of hunting witches in a political sense. Senator Joseph McCarthy led a campaign to uncover communists, which led to thousands of people being blacklisted, losing their jobs and reputations based on false accusations. Miller used the events in Salem as an allegory to show the absurdity and cruelty of this campaign. The playwright himself later also came under the scrutiny of the House Un-American Activities Committee. The meaning of the title: the word crucible has two meanings, and both are important for understanding the play. A container for melting metals, a symbol of how, under extreme heat, society melts and reveals its true nature. A severe test: the characters go through a trial that tests their character, honesty, and moral strength. For John Proctor, this becomes a test of his name and his conscience. Part 1. Plot summary. Act by act, the play consists of 4 acts and unfolds in the home of Judge Danforth and in the cell where the accused are held. Act 1. The birth of hysteria. The action begins in the home of Reverend Paris. His daughter Betty lies in a strange stupor. The previous evening, Paris caught his niece Abigail Williams, Betty, and other girls dancing in the forest with his black slave Tituba. In Puritan society, dancing was considered sinful, and rumors of witchcraft are spreading. Abigail, a clever and ruthless girl, tries to hide the truth and threatens the other girls with violence if they speak. It comes out that Abigail worked as a servant in the home of John and Elizabeth Proctor, but was fired after Elizabeth discovered her husband's affair with the girl. When John Proctor arrives at Paris's house, Abigail is left alone with him and tries to rekindle their relationship, but he rejects her. Reverend John Hale, a famous witch hunter from a neighboring town, arrives. He begins his interrogation. Under pressure, Tituba confesses to seeing the devil and names other women who supposedly flew with her. Abigail, seeing that this works, hysterically starts shouting out the names of local women, accusing them of witchcraft. Act 2. The crisis grows. 2 weeks have passed. In the Proctor's home, John and Elizabeth talk about how 14 women have already been arrested in town and may be hanged. Elizabeth urges John to go to court and tell them that Abigail is a liar, but John has no direct proof other than confessing his own affair. Martha Corey arrives and tells them that her husband, Giles Corey, has been arrested for refusing to name a man who said Putnam's daughter was treated for infertility. Later, Mary Warren, the Proctor's servant who has been a witness in court, arrives. She brings a poppet, a doll she sewed in court, and gives it to Elizabeth. Suddenly, Hale appears. He tells them that Elizabeth has been accused. Judges and marshals arrive. Abigail, brought in for a confrontation, claims that Elizabeth's spirit stabbed her with a needle. A needle is found in the poppet Mary gave Elizabeth. It's a setup orchestrated by Abigail to frame Elizabeth. Elizabeth is arrested. John, furious, orders Mary to go to court and tell the truth. Act 3. The court, the climax of the play. The courtroom in Salem. Judges Danforth and Hawthorne are dispensing justice. John Proctor brings Mary Warren to confess that the girls are lying. Giles Corey and Frances Nurse also try to present evidence of their wives' innocence. Danforth, confident in his righteousness, questions Mary. She tells them the girls are only pretending. But when Abigail and the other girls are brought into the room, they put on a performance. Abigail pretends that Mary is sending her spirit upon her, and the other girls repeat her actions as if in a trance. John Proctor, realizing he is losing, desperately publicly confesses his sin, his affair with Abigail, to prove her motive for revenge. Elizabeth is called in to confirm this, but she, wanting to protect her husband's honor, lies and denies knowing about his affair. This destroys their last hope. The girls continue their hysteria, this time accusing Mary. Mary, unable to withstand the pressure, recants and rejoins the accusers, claiming Proctor is the devil's man. Proctor is arrested. Giles Corey is arrested for contempt of court for refusing to name a witness. Act 4. The finale and redemption. The action takes place in a prison cell several months later. Mass executions are happening. It is estimated that many respected people have been hanged. The authorities begin to realize the situation is out of control, but they can only save face by obtaining confessions. Danforth and Hale try to convince Elizabeth Proctor to persuade her husband to confess. Hale no longer believes in witches, he just wants to save lives. John Proctor is brought to meet with Elizabeth. He faces a choice: falsely confess to witchcraft or refuse to admit guilt. He decides to confess, signs a paper, but when Danforth demands the confession be posted publicly, Proctor tears it up. He says, "Because it is my name, because I cannot have another in my life. I have given you my soul. Leave me my name." Proctor is led away to be hanged. Hale begs Elizabeth to stop him, but she replies, "He have his goodness now. God forbid I take it from him." The play ends with the report that Proctor and others were hanged, but their courage shook the community. Part 2. Character analysis. John Proctor is the central character, a farmer, a sinner, but a man with a strong inner core. He represents the individual standing against a soulless system. Abigail Williams is the main antagonist. Clever, deceitful, vengeful, driven by love and lust for Proctor, she uses the hysteria to eliminate Elizabeth and gain power. She is fully aware of what she is doing. Elizabeth Proctor is John's wife, the embodiment of virtue, but initially cold and stern. Her evolution involves recognizing her own role in her husband's troubles and offering forgiveness. Her lie in court becomes the ironic cause of his death. Reverend John Hale is a dynamic character. At first, he is a fanatical witch hunter who believes in his mission. By the end, disillusioned, he becomes a man desperately trying to save the innocent. But it is already too late. Judge Danforth personifies bureaucratic ruthlessness. He is not a villain in the classic sense. He sincerely believes in the court's righteousness. His main goal is to preserve the court's authority, even at the cost of innocent lives. He cannot reverse the sentences because that would be an admission of error. Rebecca Nurse, Mary Warren, Tituba, Giles Corey, the Putnams. The other characters illustrate various reactions to the hysteria, from blind submission to stubborn courage. Part 3. Key themes: hysteria and fear. The main driver of the plot. Fear of the devil, of one's neighbor, of accusation paralyzes reason and allows lawlessness to flourish. Honor, name, and integrity. For Proctor, his name is all he has left. The ability to die for the truth is the highest form of integrity. Other characters undergo this test of character, power and its abuse. Danforth holds absolute power. Abigail gains immense power through her lies. The play shows how easily power can be used to destroy the unwanted. The witch hunt as allegory. A direct parallel to McCarthyism. Accusations without proof, forced naming of names, and the destruction of reputations. Truth and lies. The play is full of distortions of the truth. Abigail's lies, Elizabeth's lie to save her husband, false confessions, all clash with the absolute truth the court refuses to see. Jealousy and revenge. Abigail's personal motivation and the Putnams' vengeance against their neighbors lie at the heart of the public accusations. Part 4. Symbolism in the play, The Crucible. As mentioned, this symbolizes the test, purification through suffering. Salem becomes a crucible where people's souls are refined. The forest, a symbol of darkness, paganism, freedom from God, and in the Puritans' perception, the dwelling place of the devil, the puppet, a symbol of innocence turned into an instrument of evil. It is concrete evidence of how innocent things are used to manufacture accusations. The golden candlesticks, a symbol of the church's greed and vanity, contrasting with the simple, stern faith of true Puritans. Stone. The church is built on it, but sinners are also stoned with it. At the end of the play, stone represents the weight that will crush Proctor. The list. Francis Nurse brings a list of 91 signatures in support of the accused. Danforth orders the arrest of everyone who signed. This is a direct allusion to the McCarthyite blacklists. Part 5. Key quotes to remember. I want the light of God. I want the sweet love of Jesus. I danced for the devil. I saw him. I wrote in his book. I go back to Jesus. I kiss his hand. I saw Sarah Good with the devil. I saw Goody Osborne with the devil. I saw Bridget Bishop with the devil. Abigail. Act 1. This shows how hysteria and false accusations begin. Because it is my name. Because I cannot have another in my life. How may I live without my name? I have given you my soul. Leave me my name. John Proctor. Act 4. The climax of the theme of honor. He have his goodness now. God forbid I take it from him. Elizabeth Proctor. Act 4. The final judgment of her husband. I've signed 91 names to a petition in favor of the accused. Francis Nurse. This line highlights the community's initial support and the danger of being associated with the accused. I have given you my soul. Leave me my name. John Proctor. Act 4. The ultimate declaration of personal integrity. She thinks to dance with me on my wife's grave. And well, she might, for I thought of her softly. God help me, I lusted. And there is a promise in such sweat. But it is a whore's vengeance, and you must see it. I set myself entirely in your hands. John Proctor. Act 3. His desperate confession to expose Abigail's motive. Conclusion. The Crucible remains one of literature's most powerful warnings about how fear and lies can destroy a community. It is not just a historical drama about Salem, but a universal story about courage, honor, and the price of lies. Miller shows that even in the darkest times, there are people willing to die for the truth. And it is their example that gives hope that the crucible of history will not destroy the human soul. For students, this play is a key to understanding not only American history, but also the mechanics of any social hysteria, from medieval trials to modern culture wars.
Thank you for staying with us. Support the channel by subscribing, leave a like, write your comments, and we'll see each other again soon.